drama. Good afternoon. Welcome to the promotion of the Monograph Sea of Change Polip International Literature Festival Prishtina, 12 editions in 13 turbulent years, put together by Natasha Tripney. I am very happy that we will be promoting this, what I consider a monumental work done by all of you here, because a big part of you are old friends of Polip, and then of course put together by Natasha in a very meticulous and detailed, thorough way. We will be talking in quite a freestyle manner, so feel free to share at any time you feel like it. I'm happy that we will be floating through Polip years with Natasha Tripney, who is the author of the monograph, Maliqi, who is an old friend of Polip, Lucia Zimmermann, Genova-Zimmermann, who was here from the first edition, Saša, Ilić, and Jeton, Neziraj, who are the troublemakers who came up with the idea, and then they somehow made us all part of it. And Miloš, Živanović, who is also an old friend of Polip. We will, do you all have your translation equipment? Because I will most probably switch into Albanian now, since me, Jeton, and Zen will speak in Albanian, Saša will speak in Serbian, and Miloš in Serbian, Natasha and Lucia will have to speak in English. And English translation will be provided in the headphones for all of you. Let's just wait 2 minutes until everyone gets their translation equipment. Do you have the equipment? Okej, po mendoj që mundemi me fillu, ndërkohë ata që nuk kanë marrën dhe pajisit e përkëtimit I marrin. E dëgjova Ivanin ma herët kur folke për para se me dalte libri që është arsyeja pse e mbledh sot. Ivana folke shumë qartë për idenë e festivaleve letrare të cilat shpesh din me u bo thjesht me ranë kornizën, në grackën e një projekti I cili synon me u kry në letra dhe nuk komunikon shumë me artin e letërsisë dhe me misionin e letërsisë si të tillë. Por edhe e përmendi një diçka që vla për shtypje që tha që Polipi ka nisi si ideal, dhe më thonë festival idealist, edhe duket sikur krejt këto vjet, krejt na që jemi bo pjesë e stafit që jemi marrë në organizimin e Polipit, ka qenë si një kriteri heshtun që duhesh me besu, nuk është të thjesht një punë të cilën vjen me bo e kry 9 to 5 edhe shkon shpejt, është diçka në cilën duhesh me besu, prandaj tash për Sašën edhe Jetonin që janë dy troublemakers që mandej na kanë marrë krejt dhe me vete në këtë valë, për shkak se nuk mundesh me qenë pjesë e Polipit, ose pjesë e diçkaje të tillë pa pas një dozë besimi. Ndoshta kisha dashur e di që folëm me Anis me Natashën, por kisha dashur për këtë perspektivë me fol me Zenin edhe me Miloshin fillimisht. Qysh kemi mri me majt për 13 edicione një festival I cili ka qenë festival idealist, edhe qysh kemi mri me përkthy këtë mision, edhe këtë ideal, ndërkohë që shoqëria ka ndryshuar për këto 13 vjet. Për shta fillojmë me Zenin me qenë se ka më afër edhe mandej me Miloshin.
Zdim filima kem besu se ka qenë gjatë, po dhe është lajmi I trishtueshëm që ndoshta është kjo edicioni I fundit që shpresoj se nuk do të jetë ashtu, se do gjendet në një format tjetër. Them ashtu, ky festival ka qenë diçka specifik, si edhe disa festivale tjera që në Bajtuk është nisë prej grupeve entuziaste, them ashtu. Zakonisht pas një, ose për shumë pak përkraje nga këtu vendi unë, ku atëve që u patë edhe u pavarësu edhe ka pasur Ministrinë e Kulturës që shka po fondet vendore gjithmonë ka munguar dhe është bajt me fondet e huja dhe me entuziazm. Unë vetëm më çudi që edhe ka qumë ka gjatë, kurse këtë bashkëpunimi me Moderatin me Jeton me Sašën, të këtë bashkëpunim kresor kanë qenë vërtet Saša dhe Jeton në një takim që kam pasmajt në Leipzig, në më duket se vitin tjetër, një vjetë më avonë, në në kënë që Leipzig, nëse 2 vjetë më avonë. Këmë trashë që ka më aviti edhe kemë bërë dhe punë tjera interesante në këtë këpimet. Fokusin nuk ka qenë vetëm të Kosova dhe Serbia, po aty është problemet në shtatë ka qenë më të mëdha dhe aty kemi investu më shumë. Në disa provokime tjera, në fushën e ndërtësisë, në përfimet që në ndryshme, si ato të librat,
Apologies from Belgrade with love that was published in Albanian and from Prishtina with love that was published in Albanian. That presentation is contemporary literature, the new Serbian short story. And from Kosovo it was not only short stories, but it included prose and theater. In the beginning, perhaps, when all this big political dialogue started, which cannot still come to an end or take a proper form for the normalization of relations, there has been hope that we are also doing something in this field of approximating them, and sometimes it gave the impression that some politician is ready to help this to support this project more seriously. And not only Multimedia Center, but Multimedia Center was the most engaged in big projects. Some theater plays which were made together with Belgrade, 3 or 4 of them. But also Polip was among those projects and those publications. But on the way there have always been, so to say, disappointments. For 3 or 4 years I've been in Tirana as the advisor to Edi Rama with the sole mission to improve the relations in the region. The main mission was actually to re-establish relations between Tirana and Belgrade, between Albania and Serbia that have been interrupted for 70 years. There were also ideas, big ideas and big projects. We'll translate this and that, we'll do this and that, we'll translate important books from both languages. But there are so few translations or mutual acquaintance. Kosovo in the times of socialism, when it started establishing some sort of literary scene, had some penetrations and some translations, mutual translation. The word literature from the 50s and on were translated in most cases from Serbian. And my reading of world literature were initially in Serbian. or Serbo-Croatian at the time. It's one language with four names and four variants of lexical variants. Once I took part in one literary roundtable in Switzerland, and the topic was translations, analyzing how much we know and how much others know regarding the relations in the region, Bulgarian literature, Yugoslav literature. For Yugoslav literature, I had some knowledge because we had this central press that covered all of this, but we lacked this mutual translations, essential, so to speak. Only recently have we started to get to know, through Polip and through some other festival, we started to get to know each other with important poets and writers. This was the big role of Polip, because it brought together the region and beyond as much as it could. We had almost 200 writers, 300 writers, at least 200 writers that came, and this is perhaps, but the lack of the festival itself does not do its mission as much as the publications. There should have been, for example, a magazine, that the readings here are part of the magazine. The magazine issue is not still established, and the concept of support to culture in Kosovo has not been stabilized yet. There is no strategy for these projects that have proven to be good, proven to be useful, and of high quality, but they were not categorized. To have like a central board of culture in Kosovo that would say that Polip does not have, Polip or Summer Festival don't need to apply each year. They can get some sort of 5-year support, or get a 5-year support, and then they know that they will continue to, they don't need to, they can do audit every year for check, but it's unreasonable to have, for example, DokuFest and other festivals, quite known festivals. We also had some very good festivals. I remember Skena Up as a festival that really pains me that it didn't manage to continue a festival of the theater and film academy, unique in the world. For that festival, when it was organized for 5 years, the most famous academies wanted to come here, and part of its success, part of the success of Kosovo theater and Kosovo film, is that this festival established contacts between deans of these world academies. And not only did they like Kosovo, but they always supported it by providing scholarships, different scholarships, and provided participation in different festivals, or provide trainings and for playwriting and film. So it was a really substantial support, a great support to professionalize a quite new scene in Kosovo with not much experience in carrying out or producing films or feature films or documentary films. So this is this is what should have been regulated. There are some support. There are some efforts within the ministry to review laws, but without a central board that would support, help the longer existence of festivals, of such festivals, such quality as polip. I don't know, the people get desperate. Here we had a jazz festival that was held by some individuals voluntarily. There have also been some other festivals that have died away, and I think that efforts should be made for polip to move on, to go on, because it's necessary. And it can be reconceptualized, and maybe it can grow and get more support. Thank you. Then the problem of institutional support for programs such as polip is a realistic problem, because it stands in front of polip, especially confronts it achieves its mission of a job that seems quite insignificant. It achieves its mission. We should make clear that the reason for reconceptualizing polip is not of financial nature. That's what I referred to what Ivana said in the beginning. We never thought to serve the agendas of donors, so I would like to continue with Miloš in order to see from your perspective how did polip evolve in these 13 years, or how it rediscovered its mission, also in terms of this. How did it serve as a space for unity between the authors of the region? Hello, everyone. With my personal participation in polip since its first edition, and from what it really meant to me personally, I could talk long about this, but somehow I have the impression that these things are so private impressions and less relevant, and that now, after 13 years, we have to make some effort to give some sort of broad perspective to it, and to somehow look into the social, cultural, political frame in which happened that which happened, starting from 2010 and onwards. In that effort to explain myself and what and how the things happen, I would prefer to stick to non-theoretical principles, and I would get back to that, to Bakhtin's time, beyond time, how he describes whatever festival, including also that which is called the literary festival. We heard in the previous panel, at a certain point we made a question whether in the phrase of literature festival, which word is more important, whether that dichotomy or that internal conflict that exists. I think that it cannot be resolved. It's okay that there should be that kind of tension. It's okay. Maybe it should be like that. The festival somehow, in its definition, has a certain temporal dimension in the sense that it evokes some past time, some point of time, which in the past, which is somewhere in the past, but also it means feasting, celebrating. So if we wanted to, if we were to translate it, it would be celebrating some point of time because of its certain qualities and the qualities of that moment, which we want to, by organizing the festival, want to revive. So the question which is made there is, which is that moment of time, which is that context, which we want to, by organizing Polip 2010, revive. Of course, it's open for interpretation. This is open for interpretation, and I don't have any intention to
viđenje, shvatanje, motivaciju za učešće namećem kao dominantno ili jedino ispravno.
To have my perspective as dominant, to impose my perspective as dominant, but I can only see this as a revitalization of Yugoslav cultural space. And I believe that the arguments for this are plenty, and probably there are also quite many counter arguments, and I believe that the revitalization of Yugoslav cultural space in this case is even more important, considering that it took place here in this place, so it had links to the place, to the space where it took place. So it's Prishtina. It has to do with the language where it took place, and it's dominantly Albanian language, which in the past political community whose dissolution we're still evidencing, because that process seems not to end yet, which in that community, the language which in that community at the time was in the second plan, it was discriminated vis-a-vis the dominant Serbo-Croatian language, and the cultural production in Albanian was suppressed vis-a-vis the production in Serbo-Croatian. And we can now continue in that direction, but I would not like to take much time here, so when needed we can also get back to further explanations. Thank you very much. We will get back to this joint space in Prishtina, because it seems a gap was filled that the Albanian did not have space in this Yugoslav cultural space. We'll get back to that. I would like to talk with Natasha, which wrote this monograph and went through a long process of interviewing all these people. Many of them were interviewed retroactively, and they had time to reflect on these Polip years. But just tell us about the process of collecting these materials and these interviews.
Hello, my name is Natasha Tripney. I'm a journalist, and a cultural journalist and a theatre critic from the UK, though I've also spent quite a lot of time in the region as well, but I'm essentially an outsider. My first experience of Polip was a very surreal 2020 edition, which was during the period of the pandemic, so it was essentially an online edition at the same time. This online edition was being produced, it was being curated from this space, so I was witnessing readers reading to empty seats, which was a strange introduction to a literary festival, which I'd heard a lot about but never encountered personally. And during this 2020 edition, this remote online edition, Saša and Jeton both converged on me and said, "We have a proposition for you," which was, I was intrigued and also slightly perturbed, but I was interested to see what they asked, and they were talking about documenting a decade's worth of this Polip Literary Festival, this cross-cultural endeavour, which I found very exciting as an idea, and something that I was very interested in as a journalist in being able to do, to retroactively look back at a decade's worth of the polip project, and to interview participants from every edition across the decade at the time. It would turn into 12 years over the course of the writing process. I think I sort of viewed that, well, it became clear to me that this was kind of a kind of jigsaw puzzle that needed to be put together in certain ways, and it was also an exercise in detection as well, because I needed to chase down some people, contact some people. There was a lot of threads to be connected, which was a very exciting process. But two things became very clear very quickly. One is something we've discussed already. This was a festival with an ideological mission, which was about translation, about the necessity of writers and readers being able to exchange work, being able to engage with each other's work, and for this translation process that resulted in these two anthologies at the beginning was an essential part of the communicative process. And the other thing that became very clear is that polip, in a way that I think a lot of other literary festivals perhaps do not achieve, created this space that was that allowed discussions to be had, topics to be discussed, complex, nuanced discussions to be had in a way that was mutually respectful, that was about people listening to each other, and the value that that has to have a space that is about respect, is about cooperation, is about mutual value of each other's viewpoints, of each other's words, and that sort of sharing process was something that, of all the people I talked to across over a decade's worth of polip editions, that idea of the value of that, the importance of that came through very loudly, and was in a way that I found quite moving, and hope that the monograph conveys. So I, across a period of around 2 years, I sort of tried to track down people who had been present at the Polip Festival from its beginnings at Leipzig Book Fair, where the idea came to fruition during this Balkan night where Saša and Aurela was curating, and across a decade and then eventually across a sort of 12-year period to speak to writers who'd in some cases been coming year after year, who'd become like part of almost like a family, which is something that really came across. There was a sense of warmth, there was a sense of welcome, hospitality that really came through in all the people that I was speaking to. And what I also came across is that this family was open to, it evolved, new members were welcomed in, and it was very interesting to me to get the international perspective as well. While I was speaking to writers in the region, I was speaking to writers from America, I was speaking to writers from Germany, I was speaking to writers from France, and trying to get both the polyphonous sort of view of the festival over the years, from people who are only here for one edition, for people who are here for many editions, and trying to get a sense of the cultural, social space that polip fills, and the role that it played in the literary scene in Kosovo and the wider region, and in a way that I think conveys the festival's importance historically and culturally, but maybe also like tries to convey a flavour of the atmosphere of the festival as well, which I think has been so central to it, this idea of it's not just, I mean, the readings are, writers reading to one another, listening to one another, the act of translation, the reading of languages in translation, ability to engage with text from a host of different languages, with writers speaking in their own language is fundamental to the festival, and the debates that grow out of that are also central. But one thing that came across is that polip is an experience. It's there's something intangible that's for a period of a weekend, a community is created, and that community extends beyond the space that the festival exists in, and it spills into the streets and into the bars and into the night. And that was something that was very important and valuable that Polip created, that for like this short period of the festival, for this weekend, there was this intense exchange of ideas, exchange of words, exchange of drinks, and that all of these elements together created something that I think is quite unique, and that why it has occupied this place in people's minds and people's hearts, and has made it a very special festival that I hope, well, it may be finishing its existence in this current form, will evolve into something new and grow and change, and will continue to exist, albeit perhaps in a different form.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you for your extraordinary work with this monography. What Natasha mentioned, what's intangible of the polip, is that you see this perspective of belonging, the sense of belonging from so many people, and the fact that it's not doesn't belong to someone, but it belongs to a broad community of people, not only in Prishtina, but also in the region. And this is something which impressed me a lot, especially in this Balkan society, the creation of a space to break down walls, because we built another and another philosophical one, because of our past, and it seems that polip, for me at least, in a social sense, was also a space. It was a space because it will continue to be. It was a healing space for all these people, not emotional or psychological healing, but also social and political healing for all these people that were that have been part of it. Lucia saw polip in its very beginning, the mission that you thought at the time. And then you saw it growing and you saw it changing. How did polip change? What did you think it would be in the first edition? And what is it today for you, that coming as a guest now?
So, thanks a lot for inviting me to this panel and to polip. So it's a great pleasure also to see many people from the first edition, like Nicola or Jeton or many others. So I worked at Genova Multimedia from 2009 till 2011 with Jeton, and when I came here I realized that there are quite a lot of projects in the field of literature, art and theatre, but not so much in the field of literature. So I suggested to Jeton to create some sort of platform to invite authors from different countries to come to Kosovo to get to know authors here, because and he was quite enthusiastic about this, and we invited, of course, Jeton from Prishtina, other authors from the Balkans. They came here mainly for the first time. They saw the place here, and we had a very vivid, brilliant festival. So the public was really big. People were very interested. We also had workshops at schools. We had a street art event, and it was a great success. I still have the program of the first edition in my bookshelf at a special place, and I really love to think about it. And actually, I really remember one poem by Ilić. I don't know if he's here. And its title was, "This place is a zoological garden now." So it's a metaphor for Kosovo, who is being watched from outside, from the international community, watching on this inner conflict, on the war, looking how they behave, but also a metaphor for people who are very enclosed, who are not free to travel. And for me it was also a metaphor for the situation of the authors, not only politically, so they can't travel, but also because they are part of a very beautiful exotic language which nearly nobody speaks. So I have the impression that polip really made some change in this aspect. Maybe I'm too enthusiastic, you know better, but there are really many bridges built, friendships. So people came here, they loved this country, they came back, and also they, like Jeton was gone to Leipzig Book Fair, it has been translated, so this is the real success to this festival. So I'm really sad it won't be continue, it should continue, and I hope we will find some form to continue it.
Lucia.
Thank you, Lucia. Now the big question that we've discussed since the pandemic being a very huge social blow towards the polip. We discussed the idea of rethinking. From my perspective, we're still with our open hearts, whether it will continue in another format. But I would like to hear Jeton and Saša and talk about this, hear from them why the last edition, will this be the last edition? Did it complete its mission, or whether should it find a new mission? Saša, please.
How dare you?
Saša gave the idea to stop it, so you should have that.
Da, kada su teška pitanja,
when the big questions are
daj njemu neka vidi
then let Saša answer.
Prvo, drago mi je da
First,
smo
I'm
ovdje i da
very
imamo
happy that we are here,
ovakvu
that we have this
fantastičnu knjigu koju je
fantastic
napisao
book
Natasha
that was
Tripney,
written by
dakle to
Natasha
moram da
Tripney.
ponovim, ja
I
sam
have to repeat this. I'm so
na sve ovo
proud
što sam
of
video i
all
ponovo
I've seen
proživio
and
faktički
lived,
sve ove
relived
godine
all
kroz tu
these years
atmosferu
through
koja
that
je
atmosphere
posredovana njenim fantastičnim tekstom
that was
i
put
fotografijama
together by
koje
her
prate
fantastic work and the photos that accompany her text in this book. And now, in order to understand why we are coming to a moment where
no translation.
switch the channel. Switch the channel. Switch the channel.
Ska problem. Okay. Šta sam vam htio da kažem? Nije bitno.
What was I saying?
Da.
Yeah.
Da bismo razumeli
In order to understand why we came to a point where we feel that the format of polip does not serve to what we're expecting or what we've invested in that festival, we have to understand how it started. Why polip and what did it mean to us? And of course, Natasha will say now that it gets back to politics, but there are good poems there, I agree. There are amazing poems. Lucia mentioned Neziraj from Kosovo. I can say that he was the poet which fascinated me when I started discovering the culture and the literature of contemporary Kosovo. I knew nothing about Kosovo, about the literature being produced here, being written here, but what I wanted to say and what people forget, which is very important, how did we come to polip, or how did we come to this synergy in 2010? It didn't just come in a night. While working Jeton in Belgrade, we're doing Jeton in Belgrade, which is a small newsletter for culture and politics. We worked on it from 2006, and we started to establish contacts with similar groups in the region with which we could talk about the situation of culture, politics and literature, but also to talk about the past and the traumatic heritage of that past. And we tried to find people from Kosovo who would establish that dialogue with us, and the meeting with Jeton was in fact a happy moment in that process which took place, and we found a man within Jeton, someone who is ready for that dialogue. This book has two segments. First segment is Natasha's text filled with these photographs, which is a historical part of polip, and the second part is our correspondence, which has two parts. The first part is from 2010, which is quite important, I'll tell you why. And the second part is the correspondence from 2022, with which we provided a framework of what happened in these 13 years. When we decided to publish these anthologies, since we didn't know anything about one another and about the literature being written because of the language barriers, because of the crimes and the wars of the past, I asked myself, what is the preface that could stand in front of the anthologies with contemporary texts being written in Kosovo today, so that this preface would mean something to Serbia and the region. And the anthology was written in the whole region, and it opened ways for the whole generation of authors from Kosovo. And Jeton and myself then thought of having some guy from the academy who would write a theoretical text on these people, or their text. And then we thought, wait, we are here, we have the idea, we want to go somewhere. Let's start and talk, the two of us, even if we are the most unimportant people in the world. You will see a part in this Natasha's book where we hear the feedback of authors who went through polip, whom we also published books who said, well, it has nothing to do with this, dealing with the past, politics, that's senseless. This is an amazing literature festival, and that's it. While these other things are not important. Just because of that, it was very important that we started our dialogue. Then we exchanged these letters, and from very sentence that we said, we were talking about that past, about the first contacts between Albanians and Serbs, between the cultures, the literature of our personal recounts, and I think this is a crucial contribution to that book, to this book. And the introduction to the second part of the book. Someone, after decades of horrible events, someone had taken and read this book. And in this process of translation, this very slow translation during these years, I learned from day to day. I got texts, I was discovering some authors. We got the text of Neziraj, we got the text of the letter. I was waiting for the translation of the text. We got plays, we got quick themes, Elvina's poems. This is the whole world opening up. And for me, it was a revolutionary experience which was changing me. Jeton and myself, we were going through turbulent transformations within the very festival. Working on this, we were changing. As some unimportant people who sense that it's important to talk. And now, we are 13 years of that. We expected that the impact of polip in real time would be much greater, and that we would have institutional transformation within Kosovo, Serbia, because a festival of this kind would be best to be done with the support of the Ministry of Culture of Kosovo and the Ministry of Culture of Serbia, in order to have it twice a year in Prishtina and Belgrade. Since I come from an authoritarian environment that doesn't want to hear anything about this type of festival, that's why we have only one part of such a project. Since we cannot now make that step, I'm not interested in entertainment, and I would never do a festival on which I would entertain people. You can read books wherever you want, You can make friends wherever you want, but what's crucially important is a very clear cultural and political framework which Polip had, and within which we met, made friends, and was very important for me and for many people. We learned from one another because we didn't know anything about each other. Even though in Belgrade people, it was, everyone was saying, we know the culture of Kosovo, we know the literature. We published some books between Jeton and Cendra, so in Serbian and Albanian and vice versa. Those books in Belgrade, no one read those books, they didn't even get reviews, they had no impact factor. The very anthology from Prishtina with Love was sold in 30 copies, while 200 libraries could have taken it. So only some people got it, those who follow alternative culture. So that's my impression, that's the theoretical and cultural frame within which there was a process of learning about literature and learning about each other's community in post-conflict. We spread it to the whole world because we had the authors from the whole world, but that red line of our meeting was crucial, and if that line cannot be transformed, if we cannot find a format which would provide us the full capacity of meaning, then there's no reason to be together, have fun, and no. We must, if we can, we must find that new meaning and a new format in which we would continue the process of learning about one another. That's my viewpoint.
Before I pass it to Jeton, can I just add one quick point? I think that maybe I didn't articulate, but I think it's important that, like, all the many people I spoke to again and again, I was hearing both from international writers who came, but also from writers in Serbia and from neighbouring countries, saying I had never been to Prishtina before. I had no idea what to expect before I came there, and when I came there, all of my anxieties and preconceptions were immediately dispersed, and suddenly there was this connection. And I think that is one of the things that there was of something that should be celebrated, is that it was encouraging this cultural cooperation that had not existed, and again the people who came for the first time came back, and they came back, and they came back, and cultural projects and friendships which do matter, because they it's what you can build upon. And I think the festival should be proud of, like, being that first step for a lot of relationships, be they creative relationships or just personal relationships. Polip did that, and I think that's something that comes across in the text and is something that should be celebrated as well.
Thank you, Natasha and Saša, for giving us a perspective of your justification, reasoning. And I think that was something that you mentioned. I cannot pass the word to Jeton before stressing this out. It's what you said, the dealing with the past and the transitional justice. I think that one of the biggest success and the achievements of the festival is that it was never branded as a project of reconciliation. It never used the notions like dealing with the past or transitional justice, because I have the impression that our societies, both our societies, in Kosovo and Serbia, have created some sort of aversion towards this terminology that treats them and that treats people not as a subject, but as part of a project. That's why I think that one of the achievements in all this failure for institutional impact of Polip is particularly it didn't achieve a mission without it achieved the mission without branding it as such. On the other hand, before giving word to Jeton, the mission of Polip was exchange, bringing closer these two societies, and this idea of reconciliation, of course, did not have a vertical trajectory in these societies, but it continues to be something. The need for negotiation comes up again, and perhaps this is the biggest tragedy, and maybe this is why we cannot leave this vicious circle. And the situation is such that still projects will work, the materials produced as a result of this synergy, of this cooperation within polip continue to have an impression, have effects on Kosovo society. We had the last case with from Belgrade with Love anthology, where when we distribute books in Kosovo public schools with the idea to present them with many authors, not only from the region but also from the world, and we get a strange reaction, especially about from Belgrade with Love anthology. And then there was a campaign against Jeton on intellectual level in Belgrade, and the Ministry of Culture reacted. So did we complete this mission or not? Why are we stopping the mission? But I'm more trying to give us more concrete answer. Of course, I cannot answer like Saša. A good part of these answers and these questions around the festival, around the cooperation, I think we gave answers to these within this exchange of letters of ours, both in the exchange of 2010 and those of the last year and this year. And so you will find the answers in this publication. I don't think it's worth going back and digest again those answers. But let's say this festival was not born as some type of ticking the boxes of both local political agenda or international political agenda. It was a fruit. It was a product of communication, of a sincere willingness, which was initiated as a festival, as Lucia said, as a poetry festival, which was then transformed and redimensioned as a literature festival, focusing on cultural, literary cooperation between Kosovo and Serbia, and then it was transformed into an international festival in its full sense. But I said it went beyond every political agenda and beyond every donor's agenda. Shkëlzen mentioned before this institutional support, the support of the ministry, the support through public funds here in Kosovo. But I have to add here that almost since the very beginning, the financial support was not a barrier. The festival continues to have a relatively small budget, and let's say that in the beginning, when that budget was necessary for multimedia center and for the organization of the festival, that budget did not come from discussions because it was politically against all official political agenda in Kosovo and in Serbia. So it was impossible to expect and have a financial support from public institutions. And in another period, of course, there started the interest of international donors, public institutions. It came later, but when these funds started coming, it was not important anymore, because the festival had already established its profile and generated income from other financial sources, from Goethe Institute, from Allianz Stiftung, which supported these festivals traditionally for many years. The problem or the question that we posed regarding the existence of this festival, regarding the future of this festival, is not financial. We are talking conceptually. Why should this festival continue? Why shouldn't it exist? Did it finish its mission, and what was the mission of this festival? The existence of a literature festival, it was said in the previous panel, is welcome. There are many reasons why a literature festival should exist, but why this festival was established and why this festival was meaningful for all these years. This idea started to be obsolete, not because this political mission is over, not because the festival had a big impact or the other way around, but because we had the impression that it started to lose its focus, it started to lose its impact. I remember the first editions of this festival, which were held in Tetris and in Jeton and at the old Chandra Multimedia. The enthusiasm that existed from the authors, but also the enthusiasm of the audience to hear and read the poems of both Serbian authors, especially Serbian authors, Toma, Miloš, the prose of Saša, and many other authors. That enthusiasm perhaps continues, but I have the impression that it was lost in the plurality of events that started to become normal in this regional cooperation, especially in this cultural cooperation between Kosovo and Serbia. It seems to me that these exchanges have turned into a routine where a tick is a box is ticked, and every activity, the presence of artists from Kosovo and Serbia, every presence is considered an achievement, while the contents remains in the second plan, or what the product provides. So in this sense, the question is why this festival should continue and why should it stop? We don't have that answer. 2 years ago with Saša during pandemic, and we should say that the pandemic had an impact, a huge impact on these talks of ours. But we've considered that there is a routine, there is an impression that we're organizing just another festival, just another edition, or that we are getting old. We got old, so we are now. We've not gotten old with this festival. And perhaps there should be someone else who can propose maybe a new generation of young people. As was said in the previous panel, a group of young people that organize festivals which are perhaps successful because they include groups, different groups of the audience, of young audience.
Do you want to add something?
Let's wait for Saša, who has an intervention, and then I would like to invite you, if there is someone who, with any intervention or question from the audience, after Saša finishes. I would just like to add to Jeton's explanation that this was also a process that was a result of the generational meeting of people who had the generational experience of a dissolution and wars of the country. These people met and made a crucial cultural and literary exchange. So we met one another, and we created a sort of group around the festival. The same people who we invited this year, but what made me start thinking about whether the festival has come to some sort of exhaustion is when there started to appear some younger people and authors, especially from Serbia and the region, who saw this as some sort of, as one of the million festivals where they would read their poem, and they would add that to their resume and leave for a million other festivals. And this is a completely another dimension. They don't participate anymore with our idea, with our frame, or with our cultural-logical horizon. And I think they have some other ideas. We would like to hear and see what is that frame, what are those meanings, what are those ideas, and what are those crucial debates that they want to be part of. So I think there we can also find ways of some sort of new life of polip.
Beteja ndërgjenerata, kështu beteja vjetër, po më duket është vështirë me prit që kemi me komuniku, sidomos me një gjenerat që nuk mendojnë që ka nevojë me
fitu hapësirën. There is a need to win the space that the new generation had considered so valuable. They now consider that they have the space, it's very easily accessible virtually. Are there questions? Are there comments from the public?
Në mos gaboj jetoni tha që vitin tjetër parashikohet bëhet në një qytet të Gjermanisë.
If I'm not mistaken, Jeton said that we are thinking of having it in a town, in a city of Germany. No, it was part of this show of mine, and that city doesn't exist in Germany. But the idea is that we are moving somewhere else in Europe. No. No, it was I was ironical. I was being ironical.
Qytetin imagjinar, në mos vërtet mendoni që ta zhvilloni festivalin ose një edicion diku tjetër përveç Prishtinës?
Are you thinking to move this festival and maybe organize it somewhere else beyond Prishtina? In fact, a very good question. And you remind me of an initial idea that we had with Saša after these discussions that we've started about closing up polip. Because I don't know if myself or Saša we proposed to hold it in the north of Kosovo. Find a partner and start organize polip in North Mitrovica, because we consider that if there is a space, a political space where this festival could take along meaning or take along the meaning that it originally had, which was controversial in all its directions, also because of the fact that we had for the first time people, we have for the first time in Prishtina people, Serbian authors that publicly read in Serbian. We should stress this out. For the first time it was read in Serbian in Prishtina in this festival. So if something similar could take on its meaning is continue the 2024 polip in northern Mitrovica, where perhaps Albanian authors would be invited to read among a Serbian community there. But I don't know how possible this is, but we've also discussed it as an idea. Are there other questions? Microphone, please.
Iz Mitrovice sam, evo, mogu vas pozivati za 2 nedelje, imamo jednu aktivnost gore u Severnoj Mitrovici.
I'm from Mitrovica. From northern Mitrovica, we have an activity in 2 weeks, and I would like to invite you.
Është hera e parë që marr pjesë këtu në këtë.
First time I'm taking part in this festival.
Ndoshta për këto lloj festivale nuk është çudi pse
it's not strange why
kalojnë për vështirësi.
The festivals go under difficulties because we are in a quite ghettoized society,
është e krete kundërta në
which is the opposite of how we used to live.
Romanin e Ismail Kadarës e kum lexuar s'pare me 13 vjeçar kur kum qenë në ushtri.
Ismail Kadarës novel in Serbian. When I was 18, it was in Cyrillic. So,
shumë ka
there are many.
Shumë ka faj të më thonë kjo situatë
This situation is,
politizume që ka ndodhur këto 30
this
ditë e fundit.
politicized situation is to blame for all what happened.
Kjo, po mendoj, kjo ghettoizim, mas shumë të mendoj se ka ndiku në letërsi, po jo për shkakun në biznes. Sepse ne e njohim shumë mirë njëri tjetrin,
because we know each other very well.
Më thon biznesi vlan,
Business is working.
si këtu si atje,
Business is as usual. People know one another.
Dhe shoqërohen
And they
komunikojnë.
communicate.
Sa I përket
And when it comes to music,
edhe ajo
the
është
music
një
is
gjë.
also
Do me thonë, e
working.
dëgjojmë muzikën,
They listen to one another a lot.
Kurse letërsia,
And when it comes to literature,
duhet të promovohet,
it should be
duhet
promoted.
të promovohet, edhe ky festival
This
mos
festival
jetë si një
should
oazë
be just
në atë ghettoizim të kësaj shoqërie. Po
another
si për shembull
effect to this
duhet
ghettoization.
me pas një ofertë
There should be
edhe
an
në qasje
offer
ndoshta
with
si muzika
with
ose si
approach just like music or
biznesi
just like business,
të jetë qasme,
in
të
order
jetë
to be
apolitike
accessible, to be
dhe të
apolitical,
promovohet
and
ndoshta në një
to
mënyrë
be
tjetër.
promoted in another
Jo
way,
në një formë oaze.
not as an
Për
oasis.
shembull,
For example,
mendoj se do të gjejmë
I think
mënyra se
we
si
should
të
find
trajtojmë.
ways how to
Ta
penetrate,
zojmë për shembull
for
muzikën.
example, the music
E kemi
We
një
have
këngë të
a
Tea
song
Tahirović,
of
e cila është
Tea
shqipe,
Tahirović, which is
është përkthy, është origjinale e Shqipës,
which is
edhe I
Albanian,
ki dikon 90 milion shiki.
and you have 90
Të
million
gjithë e
views.
dinë, të gjithë e këndojnë,
Sing
të
it,
gjithë e dojnë.
all love it.
Do me thonë është dikon të do të me pas qasje,
So it should be
edhe ky
accessible,
festival ndoshta
and this
do të
festival
ndroj formën,
should
të
perhaps
del
change
kjo
its
oazës,
form, leave
edhe
its oasis,
këtë shoqëni të ghettoizume,
and this ghettoized society try to
me pas një qasje, do me thonë pak
have
ma
a
fleksibile,
more
pak ma
flexible
ndryshe.
approach, a different approach. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bekim. Someone else? Would you like to give an answer? Literature and music and film and some other things cannot be compared. The impact factor and the penetration of music or all else compared to literature is much higher. I would just like to say, I just wanted to say that here there is a moment which is important, and that is that behind us we have bunches of translation of literature from Kosovo and Serbia, and something has to be done with that. The places where such literature should be distributed, the meeting that has to take place, that's up to educational system and the contemporary literature that we've already translated, both in Serbia and in Kosovo, because in fact young people never came, nor few of them will be coming into contact with that literature, with the authors from the neighborhood. There is a festival in Serbia which is called Napola Puta. It's very interesting. It's held in Užice, in secondary school in Užice, and it has a specific concept. And it's that every year we have 4 or 5 authors, secondary school teachers prepare those kids. We had Dubravka Ugrešić, Nenad Veličković. We had many there. And they come to school and they go to the classes and they lecture what's in the curriculum. Petar Lucic was talking about Brecht, and he would go and talk about Brecht. After that, kids were already ready. They knew what he was, and in the evening these authors would read and discuss in the revolution, in the Museum of Revolution, with a great atmosphere. And in the audience we had these young people who were getting ready for those authors. And I think that contact is so important, we did everything to the point. We have texts, we have poets, we have authors. The question is how to reach, to get to some schools, how to get to those kids, how to establish contact with the younger generation. Because what we did was difficult to do. It was difficult to reach this point, to break through that barrier. And now there's another barrier. In order for the whole thing to live, it has to find those pathways. And then this literature would have its effect. Then we could move on. Thank you, Saša. Is there any other question from the public? If not, I would like to conclude here. What remains here and what is really important is these documents of these 12 editions, an amazing work that was done by all these people, but especially Natasha, who worked hard on this monograph, and this will serve us since we have no answer on where will polip be in the future. So this monograph would serve you as well, but also us to think and what we did good, what we did wrong, and what are the lessons that would reflect in the future, in the next polip or not, but in our work in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you to Jeton, Zen, Lucia, Natasha, Miloš, Saša. See you at 8 o'clock.
I would like to invite all of you. We have copies of the monograph there.
You can get a copy of the monograph on my right side. Thank you very much and see you at 8 o'clock.